Evening cloaked the Wyndham estate in soft amber light, filtered through heavy velvet drapes that refused to let go of fall's dying sun. The grand dining room whispered of old money, polished silverware glinting beneath the chandelier, crystal glasses trembling slightly with the vibrations of a persistent wind outside, battering the oak trees like ghosts demanding entry. Inside, everything appeared composed. Linen napkins folded like origami. A string quartet hums from hidden speakers. Smiles held just a second too long. But beneath the gloss, there was unease, a stiffness in the shoulders, eyes that flickered instead of holding. The moment shattered when the butler stepped into the room, white-gloved hand holding a single envelope. "Miss Aurelia Shaw," he announced, setting it in front of her with the weight of a judge's gavel. Every utensil stopped mid-air. Conversation died. Aurelia blinked, her hand slow but steady as she picked up the envelope. Her name in bold black print. No return address. She opened it. Inside, 2 pages, the first a formal loan default notice. The second, account documentation citing a substantial debt under her social security number. She had never signed anything. Her heart thundered in her chest like fists pounding on locked doors. A flicker. The candle by her right hand trembled. The music stopped. "They didn't just forget me," her thoughts whispered like wind in the trees. "They erased me." Grant cleared his throat, the sound scraping the silence. This must be a mistake. Celine, poised in pearls, offered a measured smile. Probably a clerical oversight. "We'll fix it." But her eyes? Cold as the wine chilling on the table. Aurelia looked around. No one looked surprised. Someone planned this. Dinner resumed in the mechanical way only wealth can mimic grief. Glasses clinked too loudly. Forks scraped plates. Celine stood lifting her wine. To legacy. To loyalty. Family means sacrifice. Aurelia didn't move. Brooke leaned forward, voice sugared poison. "So, Aurelia, where's your father and your kids?" "Oh, right, you don't have any." Silence. A dropped fork. The air thickened. Aurelia didn't flinch, but her grip on the linen napkin trembled. Her voice remained quiet. What a strange thing to measure worth with. Inside she burned. Humiliation laced with rage. Not just shame. Betrayal wrapped in pearls and inherited land. She turned slightly. Grant was watching her with a blank face. Not even confusion. Just cold calculation. Excusing herself quietly, she walked upstairs. In the bathroom, she leaned on the sink, hands shaking. Cold water stung her face. She looked up, hollow eyes in the mirror. Her own, yet not. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. One text. "Check your accounts." They never asked permission. Aurelia's breath caught. Fingers trembling. She reopened the envelope. Her eyes scanned faster now, seeing the gaps, the forged signature, familiar but off. "I used to believe family meant safety," she thought, lips pale. "Now every shadow hides a contract." She caught her reflection again, but for a second, it didn't feel like her reflection. The person looking back wore her face, but with her name etched on a deed, stolen through trust. Back at the table, tension hung like fog. Aurelia returned, coat draped over one arm. She didn't sit. "I'm leaving," she said quietly. No raised voice, no trembling, just finality. Grant jolted up, a flicker of anger rising. "You can't just." "I can." She met his eyes. "And I will." Celine's chair scraped back. "Aurelia." She dropped her keys. The clang against marble echoed like a shot. I won't be collateral anymore. She walked out. The front door clicked closed behind her. Outside, the wind howled, carrying the last of autumn away. Her phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. She stared at the screen. For a moment, she didn't move. Then she answered. Inside the foyer, no one noticed the small stuffed bear, a child's toy, near the umbrella stand. But Aurelia had. She picked it up, tucked it gently into her coat. True strength, she murmured, is surviving without turning to stone. She didn't hate them, but she wouldn't protect them anymore. A week later, Aurelia stepped into her apartment in Seattle. The autumn rain still clung to her coat, but it wasn't the damp that chilled her. It was the door. The lock clicked too easily. Something felt wrong. Inside, nothing was overtly disturbed, but to Aurelia it screamed. A stack of keys had been moved slightly. Her desk drawer, which she always shut flush, sat open just a crack. A document folder was partly pulled out like a ghost's hand had rifled through it and left it in a hurry. Her stomach twisted as she reached for the lower drawer, the one with the secondary checkbook. Empty. There's no violence here, her inner voice murmured. Just fingerprints on my freedom. She installed a home security camera before taking off her shoes. Its red light blinked into the quiet night like an unblinking eye. The next morning, she walked into her local bank with the practiced calm of someone trying not to shake apart. At the counter, her account access was denied. Administrative hold, the teller said apologetically, before gesturing her toward the branch manager's office. The manager, a man in his 50s with the kind of face built for golf courses and polite denial, gave her a corporate smile. It's a procedural thing, ma'am. You did authorize a joint transfer to Wyndham Property Holdings, correct? Aurelia's breath caught. Excuse me. He slid a document across the desk. Notarized. Her name. Her signature. It looked just like hers. But it wasn't. I never signed this, she said. She asked for a copy. As he stepped away, she tapped record on her phone inside her coat pocket. When she stepped out into the rain, she could barely dial Rachel Tran's number. Voicemail. They didn't just touch my name, she said aloud to no one. They've stolen the bones it stands on. Back home, the red light on the new security camera blinked. She checked the feed, fast-forwarding through hours of nothing until motion. A figure in a hoodie moved just outside her apartment. The camera caught them adjusting the peephole camera before disappearing down the hallway. Then her laptop pinged. One new message. No sender. No subject. Not just your bank account. Check your storage unit. She was already grabbing her coat before finishing the sentence. The storage facility smelled like dust and cold concrete. Inside her unit, everything looked intact until she saw the broken lock on the back cabinet. Documents had been disturbed. Files opened. Some missing. She held the broken lock in her hand. Her reflection in a chrome panel stared back. Outside, a bus passed by. She didn't blink. The next morning, her co-worker sent her a link. A blog post. Title: The Untold Truth of the Perfect Daughter. It accused her of neglecting her aging father, manipulating family finances, forging documents. There were screenshots, fabricated emails, spliced messages making her look guilty. Details only someone close would know. She traced the IP address. South Carolina. They're not hiding, she whispered. They're daring me. She closed her laptop gently, then opened a blank document titled Counterstrike. And then She walked into Rachel Tran's office. Rachel smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "I need your help," Aurelia said. They talked, cordially, vaguely. Rachel kept her answers tight. Then Aurelia dropped it. The documents used Wyndham LLC language. Language I only used with you. Rachel's pen stilled. "I can't comment on other clients." Aurelia tapped her pen off. Audio saved. Her eyes drifted to the shelf. A photo frame. Rachel, smiling beside Celine Wyndham at a gala. She stood. "Thank you for your time." In the car, she sat in silence, breathing through clenched teeth. "She's in it," she said, "all along." That night, she visited a nursing home. Mr. Devane, her father's old war friend, greeted her with a soft grin. "You look like your dad when he was tired of people's crap," he chuckled. They talked about service, betrayal, and survival. "Real strength," he said, his hand resting gently over hers. "It's walking away before you lose your soul." She handed him a hand-knit scarf. "My dad made this when he couldn't sleep," she smiled. She stood outside the building, night air cutting her lungs clean. "I'll fight this war clean," she whispered. "No blood, just truth." When she got home, a letter was waiting. Legal foreclosure notice. Effective in 14 days. Wyndham LLC had filed. Her name listed as secondary signer. She stared at it, then began packing a leather bag, documents, drives, files. Final words echoed in her mind. "You either destroy the web, or you become the prey caught in it." The late morning light flickered in the rented office as Aurelia shut the door behind her. The space was tiny. One metal table, two mismatched chairs, and a lamp that buzzed whenever the temperature dipped. She carried a thick manila envelope with both hands, as if it were something alive. The label on the front read, "Original will and account records." The stamps were old. The seals were real. And this time, everything inside belonged to her. Unfiltered, unaltered, untouched. She laid the documents out in a wide arc across the table. The original will her mother once dismissed as outdated. Property deeds no one thought she'd ever see again. Banking logs meticulously typed decades ago, and notarized affidavits with signatures that still held legal weight. As she spread each one out, the overhead lamp flickered again. Almost a warning, almost a drum roll. "All this time," she whispered, "I was playing someone else's script. Now I hold the pen." Her hands steadied on the table. Papers rustled like restless ghosts waiting to speak. And for the first time in weeks, she felt the unfamiliar rise of something that might have been calm or courage. By early afternoon, she sat in a quiet cafe booth, hood pulled low, eyes sharp. Daphne Collins slid into the seat across from her. The woman had the look of someone who'd spent years quietly witnessing things she never thought she'd have to say aloud. Her hand trembled slightly as she set a flash drive on the table. "This is everything," Daphne murmured. "I backed it up twice. If I disappear, someone will find it." Aurelia exhaled slowly. "Truth isn't vengeance," she said. "It's clearing a name. Mine. And my father's." Daphne kept her eyes down. They thought no one remembered. They thought no one would care. She paused. "But I remember." They reviewed the recordings together. Grainy CCTV footage of meetings between Grant and Celine Wyndham. Audio files whispering plans of forged signatures. Screenshots of bank transfers funneled through Wyndham Property Holdings LLC into a shell structure overseas. It wasn't just family betrayal. It wasn't even just inheritance theft. It was a federal crime. Aurelia swallowed hard. This was bigger than she imagined. Bigger than her father's legacy. Bigger than her pain. "You're sure you want to walk into this storm?" Daphne asked quietly. "Storms don't scare me," Aurelia said, sliding the flash drive into her bag. "People who pretend they're harmless do." The next morning, she walked the courthouse corridors in Charleston with her chin high, coat swept behind her like a banner. She didn't tremble when she filed the lawsuit. Fraud, forgery, asset conversion. She requested an emergency injunction to freeze Wyndham Estate assets. "I seek only what's mine," she told the clerk, "and what was stolen under my name." The clerk stamped her file. The thud echoed like a gavel. Across town, Grant Wyndham stared at his ringing phone before answering. Whatever he heard on the other end drained the color from his face. In the background, Celine froze with a half-polished silver goblet in her hand, her jaw tightening. Aurelia did not hesitate. That evening, she walked into Wyndham Estate, not as the quiet guest she had once been, but as the plaintiff who held every truth they'd buried. The dining room, once the stage for their rehearsed civility, had turned into an amphitheater of consequence. Fine china sat on a table no one dared touch. The air was thick enough to slice. Her attorney handed subpoenas to Grant, to Celine, to Brooke. Paper against palm. Reality made solid. Grant looked at her with a mixture of anger and fear. Celine's posture was perfect, but her eyes trembled. "You sold my name," Aurelia said calmly. "My legacy. My history. For what? Tonight I trade silence for truth." Celine's voice cracked into a hiss. "You think this ends with papers? You've cursed us forever." Aurelia didn't blink. "No, you did that yourselves." The maid closed the door behind the lawyers. The chandelier swayed from a subtle draft. Somewhere a wine glass tipped and shattered on the floor, a slow, cinematic fall that matched the room's unraveling. And then, in the corner of the room, Aurelia saw an unexpected face. Frank Devane, her father's oldest friend. His eyes were glassy, hands gripping his cane. He shouldn't have been dragged into this, but life had its own cruel timing. Aurelia stepped toward him, her voice softening. "Frank," she whispered, laying a hand on his shoulder, "you once told me strength isn't about breaking someone. It's about holding the truth steady, even when your hands shake." He blinked hard. "Your father would be proud you didn't let them bury him twice." Aurelia reached into her folder and handed him a sealed envelope. "This is for you. The portion he meant to leave you." She paused. "He didn't forget you. They did." Frank held the envelope like it was made of gold. But now it was time. Aurelia placed the original will on the polished mahogany table. Light from the window spilled across it, illuminating dust in the air like falling embers. "There's a clause," she said, "hidden in the original. Your forged version wiped it out." The room went still. She read aloud. "If the estate is ever sold or transferred, all proceeds must first settle outstanding debts and support any living dependents before any remainder goes to the sole heir." The heir was her. She clicked her phone. Celine's voice, recorded days earlier, filled the room. "Just sign it. She'll never know. We'll fix the will like we fix the others." Celine lunged toward the phone. Aurelia didn't move. Outside the estate, federal investigators waited in dark SUVs. They had heard enough. They had seen the shell company logs. They had been alerted to the money trail. Inside, the lawyer stared at Aurelia in stunned silence, realizing she had brought an avalanche wrapped in a manila envelope. Hours later, the estate was sealed, accounts frozen, Investigations launched. Weeks after the confrontation, a soft wind rustled the pines surrounding a modest new house, one deeded to Frank Devane. Aurelia watched him settle into the porch chair, a warmth returning to his smile. She drove away down the quiet road, rolling down her windows as the autumn air washed over her. Freedom didn't always roar. Sometimes it sighed. "Justice isn't vengeance," she murmured. "It's the peace that lets you breathe after the storm." At a bank downtown, she placed the original will and the flash drive in a safety deposit box, not as a weapon, as closure. When she sat in her car again, the sun low and gold, she caught her reflection in the rear-view mirror. A woman older, steadier, no longer afraid of her own history. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She answered. Silence. Then a slow, deliberate breath on the other end. Aurelia's hand tightened on the steering wheel. The storm might be over, but something else had just begun.